students. I've enjoyed reviewing the rough drafts of your descriptive essays. I wanted to take a few minutes to share with you some reflections on the artwork we selected as a class. First, let's look at the variety of artwork our learning community selected to write about in descriptive essays. I was impressed with the variety of different types of artwork each of you selected, from paintings by masters such as Claude Monet to photographs taken at the scene of fires, from iconic photographs such as Earthrise to paintings and animated films. The class selected artwork that spoke to each individual student. This group of students selected paintings by Monet, Magritte, Aller, and photographs by Charlie Rydell and Dave Johnson. In this group of students, one student selected a black and white photograph of the slums of New York, while two students selected paintings. This group of students selected artwork from a wide variety of artists, including William Beard, Pablo Picasso, Thomas Kinkade, and Jacques Clemente. So next, let's look at some global issues I discovered while reviewing your work. The first involves giving a full MLA citation of the piece of art you selected for your essay. I found several issues where full citations were not given, or you incorrectly cited the photograph or painting you selected. So here are some tips. Use italics rather than quotation marks for the title of the painting or photograph, and don't just give the URL for the painting or photograph, give the full citation. Let's talk about how we can do that. So in citing your artwork as a reference on your works cited or reference page, make sure to include each element: the last name and first name of the painter or photographer or artist, the title of the work, the date the artist created the work, the source, the medium, and the date you accessed it. So I saw several entries where citations were incomplete. So for example, in this citation, the painter was listed, Dave Johnston, and the title of the painting was listed, but not the date that it was created, or the source, the medium, or the date accessed. So this would be the complete citation. In this example, the student just included the photograph and the URL. So this is also an incomplete citation of the photograph. Selecting the URL pulled up an article in the Daily Mail where the photograph appears, and that's not the correct full citation of the photograph. So what can you do if you have incomplete information or you're looking for complete information? First of all, if you can't remember the source of the photo or painting you selected, you can use Google Images reverse search to find information. So what you do is you should save a copy of the photograph, then you go to Google Images, you browse and select the image, and it'll pull up where it appears on the internet. Then look for a credible source, a primary source for where the photograph is located. So for example, in this black and white photograph, where I would want to look is the museum. So it found that this photograph is being portrayed in an online gallery by the Museum of the City of New York. The title is there, as well as the photographer and the date the photograph was given. So as a result of research, you can put the information you've gathered into a full citation. This includes the photographer's name, in this case John Rice, the date the photograph was taken, 1870, the title of the photograph, which is Lodgers in a Crowded Bayard Street, the source, which is the Museum of the City of New York, the medium, which is the web, and the date of access. So here's another example of a photograph selected by a member of the class that did not have any citation. You can use a reverse image search on Google to locate the source of the photograph. And this is what you should do when you need to find the complete information about an image or source. So if you save this photograph and then you browsed and used reverse Google image search, you could find that the photograph appears here in an article in the Smithsonian Magazine. The photo credit is the Science Photo Library or Corvus. There's not a specific photographer. But we could find the information, and it does have a title. So as a result of this research, we can now document the full citation for this photograph as indicated here. So we would indicate the title, Wildfire House, the date it was taken, 2014, the source, Science Photo Library Corvus, is found on the web, and the date of access. So in addition to the full citation, another global issue in the rough drafts was the in-text citation of the artwork, or how you reference it. Here, the author of the essay about the painting of the bear dance referenced the painting as stated here, with all of the information in parentheses. So instead of doing that, the best way to do this would be what's here, the painting The Bear Dance, comma, created by William Holbrook Beard in 1870, comma, is interpreted as symbolic of conservative financial investors celebrating a good business day. So another global issue I found was a sentence fragment, and here's some basic information about sentence fragments. But what you should remember is that a sentence fragment is basically an incomplete thought. It's missing a subject or a verb, so it's just part of a phrase. For example, working far into the night in an effort to salvage her little boat is missing a verb and a subject. So here's how you can correct this. For example, instead of this, as the butterfly picks its bed for the night upon a purple stone flower, which is kind of an incomplete thought, missing a subject and verb, we could say gaze at the butterfly as it picks its bed for the night on a purple flower. That way the subject is you, the verb is gaze. Also another issue I saw was parallel structure, which is the repetition of a certain form which provides balance and clarity in your writing. And this is best exemplified by an example. So Louise will be swimming, then bike and run. Notice that swimming is not in the same verb tense with the ing as bike and run. So the correct way to write that sentence in parallel structure would be Louise will swim, bike, and run this weekend. So now I just want to reflect on some variety of different approaches that you took in writing your essays. Remember that you could use a wide variety of approaches. You could imagine you're inside the painting or photograph and write from the perspective of being there. And you could do an analytical approach, and several of you used a wide variety of these. So here was an example of a creative approach, writing from the perspective of the brown pelican. Here Chelsea told the story from the viewpoint of the pelican covered in oil. She pulled the reader into the story of how the pelican's existence had changed as a result of human error. So she really does a good job of describing the pain, the struggle, the confusion, and the fear. And here, Destiny also imagines being there. She asks us to use our imagination to get inside of this photograph, to see, smell, and hear the scene in Treasure Island. Several others of you described being in the scene. For example, here, Stephanie puts the reader in the scene, describing the horses, the dam, and the feeling of their fur, their hair. Also, Rebecca transports the reader to a scene in Ireland with her descriptions of the scene. Several of you used photographs to discuss personal experiences. Here, Jefferson used a photograph of the wildfire to reflect on a personal experience of actually being in a house fire. And here also Bronson, who's actually a firefighter, transports us into a personal experience with his vivid descriptions. Marlene shares a painting she created herself and expresses how the images in the painting depict a relationship she had. Several of you use photographs to reflect cultural experiences. Natalie reflects on the culture of Puerto Rico in this painting about the death of a child. Jamie also reflects on the culture of Mexico with her descriptive essay on this painting. Most of you used an analytical approach. For example, Stephanie took the analytical approach in analyzing the symbolism of the images in this painting. So did Amanda and Katie in describing the images they selected. So did Isa, who analyzed this black and white photograph taken of the New York slums in the 1870s. David and Stephen also took analytical approaches to the descriptive essay, as did Logan. And Song wrote from the perspective of a child inside the painting, so asking us to imagine, or she imagined that she was actually a character in the painting, walking through the poppies and describing what she saw. So lots of imagination here, lots of effective strategies. So let's look at some examples of effective hooks and openings and sensory descriptions and figurative language. And remember, these are just samples. I just had to take a few samples. There were lots. Effective hooks. Here's one by David. Remember that a hook should engage the reader and motivate the reader to want to read more about the topic. And this example does this effectively. Lots of effective descriptions. As I read your rough drafts, you're doing a lot better with sight and sound. Here, David describes swirling white clouds, the browns and greens of dry land. There's some very detailed descriptions here by Stephen of the bear dance. Marlene describes what each image in her painting means. Here she describes what the man playing the drums, what that symbolizes in her relationship. Bronson really does a great job helping us feel the heat and smell the smoke and taste the salty bitterness of sweat and hear the crackling and crinkling of fire in his description of being on the scene of a fire. Here, Jamie and Logan also give detailed descriptions of paintings that they selected. And Song also does a great job here. Notice the smell, the fields, flowers. Here are just a few examples of some effective examples of figurative language. Lots of good similes, like a mariner from 200 years ago, invisible as ants, peeking through the trees like a puppy peeking his nose through the door, and like thunder in the night that shakes your inner walls. So great job. As you work on the final drafts of your descriptive essays, continue working on sensory details. When you want to use the word like amazing, great, or beautiful, stop yourself and select a more vivid description. And keep this in mind as our ending thought. Remember that good writing is supposed to evoke sensation in the reader, not the fact that it is raining, but the feeling of being rained upon. So have a great week and enjoy revising your rough drafts. Read and consider the feedback of your peers and your instructor as you revise. And have a great week.